recording this for posterity and so I can have notes later. All right. We have some people here. I know we had
responses were.
The response rate was awesome.
Awesome.
We had
so many people signed up.
I want to say there was at least 27 or so
Yeah.
the last time I checked that were going to join us. So
Good.
well, it is 12:31, and we've got 7 participants now. Let's see, Ashley, Candy, Sarah. Not sure who that is. John Buter is with us. And other folks. So we'll give people another moment to come in here. Okay. So get all of that. All right. Andy's with us. So I do have the chat open. If you have questions that you want to ask in there, we can. But what I know, Mandy, you had shared some info with Donna and I that might be, just a quick topic to share with folks as they're signed in here about the plan and how to best utilize it.
Yeah.
Why don't we go ahead and turn some time over to you? And Mandy, just so everybody is aware, is with our broker Adept Benefits. And she works alongside Megan and Sarah that we've introduced you to in the past. Mandy is an amazing person that we've gotten to work with behind the scenes with Donna, and has helped us in revisions with the plan descriptions, et cetera, that you guys have all seen at this point, or we've shared with you. And Mandy's an amazing resource with lots of experience and knowledge around health plans, and we're excited to have her a part of this today. So I'll turn the time over to you for that segment, however you would like to pursue that, and then we'll be as interactive as we can.
All right, awesome. Well, thanks for the introduction. Thanks for having us today to help explain a little bit about your plan and how it works. We just want to do a pretty quick, at the beginning of these, maybe 5 minutes, little introduction to different educational pieces to the plan. And a lot of that's based on, the feedback from meetings like this. So I had planned today to talk through one of the things I think is particularly confusing sometimes for members and your families is that 4-tier part of your plan where you have different subsets of providers and different cost shares for you in those tiers. And so I'll explain a little bit of that. And I was planning on using basically your tier 2 provider directory that we've been using, just because at the top it has a little color coded short description. So I'll put that on the screen. But as we kind of talk through this, and as you guys have some questions for us, we'll also be using that information to shape some of the other educational things we do in the future, just to kind of help guide you in using the plan and optimizing it. So, if something comes up and it's a big question for everyone, those are the kind of things we're wanting to know so that we can address them and provide that knowledge for everybody. So do feel free to use the chats or just unmute yourself and ask a question too. So I'll share my screen here really quick. If it lets me. Oh, does it? Hopefully everybody can see that. And This doesn't look foreign to you, hopefully. So this is the what we're calling a directory. And the goal with this piece that you see every week, hopefully, is to help you find care in specific care categories. So primary care, obviously, you guys are very familiar with that. You do that yourself internally, but also some of the other areas like imaging, women's health, all of those kind of specialties. And to help you find these providers on your own. And the goal in that is not to sort of not assist you on our end or not have advocates assist you, but God forbid you had to get a hold of somebody outside of time when you can get someone on the phone, or you just simply wanted to save yourself a little bit of time in contacting. This would be a good piece to start with to say, okay, I need a provider. Where's a good place to start? And not have to spend all of that time on the phone or trying to get a hold of someone for assistance. So the goal is to give you something that's sort of a quick reference guide on what providers we have in this tier 2. So let's talk about the different tiers you have and how they work. So tier 1, you can see at the top here, is the Sound Family Medicine Facilities providers. That's you. That's the lowest cost share to you if you use those providers, no deductible for those providers. And the point of these tiers is to try to steer you to providers and facilities that we have determined to have low cost and high quality care. So obviously we believe as Sound Family Medicine that we have the lowest cost and highest quality care. So we're going to steer you there and give you the biggest incentive to use your own facilities and your own providers. So tier 1 is where that is. We don't have a lot of descriptors about that because basically it's your own plan, your own people. So we don't have a separate directory for that. But tier 2, this is a little bit harder to get a hold of. And tier 2 is where we do direct contracting. So our plan, you may know, it's very unique in that we reach out directly to providers in your area and in your communities and try to make direct contracts between the plan and with Sound Family Medicine employees within their medical plan and the provider themselves. So outside of a more traditional network arrangement where they, have a large network agreement, they're making a contract or an agreement directly with Sound Family Medicine's plan. And with those kind of arrangements, we get a lot of benefits to it. We get to choose which providers we participate with.
Recording in progress.
Oh, I'm sorry. I couldn't hear the question. It kind of had an echo. Kevin, you're muted.
I think she was just joining us. I don't think that
Okay.
noise was intentional.
Okay. So those tier 2 providers, we have some benefits to them. They're high quality. We get to choose and direct based a lot of actually on your feedback, where you submit providers to say, hey, this is a provider in my area I want us to participate with. I've evaluated them. I think their care is outstanding and I want us to pursue a relationship with them. And then we go out and get those contracts in place. Part of being able to negotiate with them directly affords us some lower cost care as well. So that's passed on to you because that's also a low cost option for you. So you have lowest cost is tier 1, second lowest cost is tier 2, and just kind of moving up, we have tier 3, which is a provider network, 2 different options for provider network, the PHCS, physician and ancillary. Physician, obviously providers and ancillary would be ancillary services like labs and imaging. And the PNOAE network, that's a whole lot of letters, but a really fast way to search those 2 tiers or those 2 types of provider networks in your tier 3 is to log into your HMA portal. They have a combined search engine. So when you go in there and search for provider, you're able to see those tier 3 providers right away. Very large provider networks, both of them, some of them local, some of them national, a lot of options there. If you're working through the tiers and you get all the way to tier 3 and say, shoot, this provider I really want to work with is not in any of those tiers. We don't have a contract. They're not a PNOAE or PHCS provider. What do I do now? That doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to have a completely out of network option. That does mean, though, that we can start that connection with them. So part of that is reaching out to an advocate or to internally to Kevin and Donna and their team and saying, hey, I'm recommending this provider that we put in a direct contract with them, or I need to have, I need to see this provider. There's no other option in my area. I would like HMA advocates to pursue what we call a single case agreement, which is basically a contract that's not on the larger scale of Sound Family Medicine, but is a contract between your provider and you. So to cover care for just you or your family member. And you can reach out to HMA to see what options are available. So even if you get all the way to tier 4, if you come across a provider, it doesn't always mean that you're going to have that full out of network cost share. There are some options where we can try to find single case agreements, or, if it's not a super urgent, they can pursue that direct contract. They just need a little bit of time to develop that relationship. So some of those cases where it ends up being a single case agreement, all can potentially end up in this tier 2 at some point. It just has some timing where you've pursued it right now with a single case agreement, and later Sound Family Medicine ends up having a direct contract with them, if it makes sense. So a lot of options for you to find care, sort of, kind of working through the process. You would want to start in tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. As you get to tier 4, that would probably be our worst case scenario, just because of timing, and not being able to be sure what the provider process is going to look like, but you still have options in all of those. So hopefully that sort of explained those processes as you work through it. And If by chance you get to a situation where you don't know where this provider falls, that's when we would encourage you to reach out to HMA and to those advocates, and they'll help you figure that out and help you figure out the best course of action to be able to see that provider. Any questions on that at all?
So I put a question in there that I heard from somebody earlier in the week. So if there's an urgent issue that comes up and your provider is not listed, or that, I don't have a chance to call the member advocacy because it's after 5 o'clock, somebody has a broken arm or something like that. How do I go about this? So if it's an urgent issue and I need to go to the ER, or if I'm trying to reduce costs, I'm trying to be aware of that. What's the best way to go about something that maybe needs an immediate attention, but realizing that the provider that I'm looking for maybe isn't in our plan yet. We're either in process, we haven't submitted something for them before.
Well, the first thing would be to try to review that tier 2 sheet, whenever it comes in, because a lot of times, it's urgent or emergent, but if I happen to know CHI providers are on that tier 2, I can maybe steer myself to those facilities or know where they are around me. But if you truly have an urgent emergent situation, you have to get in for care, just like any other medical plan, the cost share for urgent emergent is the same as it would be for network. In other words, there's no distinction or ding on you for having to get an emergency treatment at any facility. HMA is going to be like any other administrator. They're going to try, if you're, for instance, hospitalized for, let's just say, major car accident, you're hospitalized at a facility that's not in network, they're going to try to facilitate getting you to an in-network hospital at some point throughout the course of your care, but they're going to try to have you treated where you need to be treated right then. So real emergent stuff, car accident, don't be thinking about what's in your network. Go and get care. It's emergency. Go and get it done. And all of this will be handled on the back end. For single case agreements, they don't always have to be in advance. Now, that being said, your plan does have, in a lot of cases, some prior authorization. But as you know, even a prior authorization for, let's just say, appendectomy, frequently those are done on an emergency basis. The prior authorization is done once you're already admitted to the hospital. So the hospital would reach out for prior authorization. At that point, if it weren't an in-network hospital, HMA would be working for that single case agreement. And single case agreement just means, can we get an agreed upon price? We would love to do that in advance. I think our negotiating strategy is a lot better when it's in advance, but they will also pursue it after the fact if they have to. So they'll continue to pursue it if they need to. We just feel like it's going to be a heck of a lot easier on you if you can go through that process in advance. Understanding that there are just times that you can't, that you just have to get care. And HMA is still going to work for you, and those advocates are still going to do the single case agreements. It just might be a little bit bumpier in terms of communication, making sure the bills get to the right place, and reaching out to them after the fact to say, hey, this happened. What do I do now?
Great. So some other question, anybody, if you have a question you want to put, you can put this in the chat. Mandy here is with us. So if you just joined us just a little bit ago, is with our broker, Adept Benefits, and is knowledgeable about our plan and how things are set up. The topic we just covered is around the tiers of the plan. But this is open for more than just that topic. So a question that just came up, Mandy, is please walk through what the co-pays are for tier 2, seeing a specialist, tests ordered, which number do we call to find out how much is patient responsibility?
The easiest question is that what number to call for patient responsibility is HMA, just because they're going to be able to search each of those tiers that we talked about in a much more efficient manner. So they're gonna be able to see which tier it falls in and which of those tiers your cost share falls into. The co-pays for tier 2, let me see if I can get your summary of benefits.
If you have any trouble, let me know. I can pull it up from our site.
Yeah, if you have it, you can go ahead. I'm just trying to
Yeah, I do have, I can direct them if you're at work, a great place to look that up. I'm going to share my screen if you're okay with that here for a moment. And so we go, can everybody see my crazy world here? Okay, so we go to the hub, which is our intranet site here at Sound Family Medicine. So if you have any challenges getting to the hub, let us know.
I've also added it to Paycom.
We can help you with that. And Donna just mentioned it's also on Paycom, so I can show you from both places where that is. But from here, if you click on Human Resources, Benefits, we've got the sound plan listed here, and the first section is the medical plan. So we've got the direct contracting update, which Mandy was just going over, the different tiers from that list, the provider nomination form, some quick FAQs. The schedule of benefits is really where you're going to see those tiers. So based on which plan you're enrolled in, if you're in the 6,000 or the 3,000, the base or the buy up, right? Make it simple. Let's open up the base first. So here's that tier to the question that came up from the employee. This shows those different tiers. So
Yeah, so no deductible for tier 2. You can see at the very top annual medical deductible notes. So those
tier
first
1 is Sound Family Medicine.
Yeah, the first 2 tiers are the most cost efficient in terms of your out-of-pocket costs. So those two have a deductible that's waived. You still have an out-of-pocket maximum, so that's where coinsurance comes into play. But outside of deductible, you have those co-payments listed below: the primary care, specialist visits. If Kevin keeps going down, we'll find labs. And I think you asked about labs. And
yeah, I think the question was seeing a specialist. And so in this one would be $50 copay in tier 2. And the only specialist we have at Sound Family Medicine right now is with GYN with Dr. Major. So outside of that, everybody else is a normal family medicine provider. So it would be the $5 copay. So if you do get referred to a specialist that is somebody that's covered in a direct contract in tier 2, that's the copay. If it's somebody within the extended network of PHCS and PNOAE, it's also a $50 copay for seeing that specialist. Now, if you go to somebody that's outside of all of that, so let's say, you know, the elephant in the room is multi-care, right? So they're non-participating carrier or provider group, they would be 20% of coinsurance after the annual deductible, which in this plan has, you know, $6,000 per person, a maximum of $12,000 per family. So once it meets that deductible, that's when the 20% coinsurance would kick in, similar to the traditional plans that we saw prior to moving into this plan.
you do have some lab services included in that office visit copay. You can see right
Down the next box.
Right. So if we drop down, did I go too far, Donna?
Yeah,
I
it's
did.
in the second box underneath the specialist.
Oh, right
the
here.
office
So
visit.
so other services
So,
performed in office.
Yeah, so if you're there within the specialty office and they have their own ability to run labs there or other things, then, and you do it at that time, then those costs are actually included in the office visit copay, meaning that they would be no additional costs to you. It would just be included in that $50. It's only if the lab or imaging needs to go outside of the office visit, for example, using TRA or Quest for lab, then you would need to look up those coverages separately because it would be a separate charge.
Yeah, and they're probably a little bit further down.
And then they're further down on the list.
And so
They're general-
again, it's important to distinct that it needs to be somebody that's in that direct contract, tier 2 or tier 1, right?
Correct.
So right.
Yeah.
And it is okay, because some questions will come up of, do I have to get the lab at that place or can I get it somewhere else? So if you did go to a specialist in one place and you wanted to get the labs done here at Sound Family Medicine, you could do that.
Yes.
To save yourself some money. I'm not sure where
It's it's down below for a while, a ways. So there's your diagnostic services.
So lab services.
For lab and pathology. So you can see that it's,
There's no fee for San Family Medicine
and zero coinsurance.
and zero coinsurance in tier 2. So it's when you go outside of that to tier 3 or 4 that those different things occur.
So again, like, like most of the plan, if you stick to tier 1 or tier 2, it's going to cost you the least amount of money. And you can see that even lab services are covered with no coinsurance.
That answer your question? Yes, okay.
Yeah, good question.
Mandy, any other parts around that tier structure that you wanted to talk about, or you think it's okay to open up to other questions at this point? Or
Yeah, we can open it up to other questions. I would just encourage everyone to continue to do what they've been really good at doing, which is nominating providers, because that's how we build that tier structure up and make it customized to what's really working for you. And when we seek out providers on our own, but it's nice to have providers that you really want to see. I think that offers some leverage to them to say, we have some providers that recommended you or requested you. And it gives us a little bit of direction on where the needs are. So please keep nominating providers for it. And we'll just keep building that network so that you have that preferential cost share.
Yeah. So if anybody's looking for a pediatrician or other things like that, and you want to add that to this, let's keep sending those in. So questions that have come up, Mandy, people that submitted things before the plan went live, there were a number of people that submitted information back then, and some of those people may have been impacted in the negotiations that we were having with MultiCare, or maybe we're an affiliate of MultiCare, didn't, on the face of it, like the Pulse Health Group, or some other groups, Mary Bridge, for example. Most people probably don't think that that's a MultiCare associated organization. What should they, now that we've already moved away from, at least for now, with moving forward with MultiCare, what should those folks do?
HMA can help you find another provider that is going to be a little bit more friendly to the plan and more likely to consider direct contracting. And ideally, we want to try to find as many providers that are willing to have those conversations. And MultiCare right now, as you said, has sort of shut that conversation down and said, thanks, but no thanks. That doesn't mean that might be their answer forever. We're certainly going to still pursue them because they're a major provider, and we'd love to add them to the network. We'd love to partner with them. But in the meantime, we don't want to not pursue other options. So, if you have an option that you're running into that doesn't happen to be a MultiCare provider, or you're referred to one from HMA and you have a great experience, those are the kind of bits of feedback we like to have, just because I'm not, necessarily experiencing pediatric care in the Seattle area with my kids, and we don't want to arbitrarily, pick providers without, having a directed view from you that these are the good ones. So we love having that feedback, and we're going to keep working with MultiCare and hold out hope that they'll come around. I have a feeling as you grow, they'll be more likely to do that. And you guys are building relationships with those providers too. So,
yeah.
It's not a never answer. I think it's just a not now. They've been really clear that definitely not now. And It is challenging when you're looking up a provider, to tell immediately that they're multi-care. And that's where HMA can kind of come into play, where they can kind of see they've been down a lot of those roads with other employees that have called in with the same kind of questions. So they have a real comprehensive list of the ones that are no's, because they have pursued them and realize it's multi-care and it's not going to happen.
Yeah. I think another question that I hear frequently from folks is those going in for the first time to practice, and that's in network, right? They're in tier 2, or even us sometimes, right? So they get told by the front office, what is this? I don't know what this is, right? And what should that employee do at that point? They've got the card in hand, they've presented it to them, and the person goes, well, we can't find this, in our database here. What's the next course of action? And they're, more often than not, it's probably on a Saturday or after hours, right? So it's not going to be quite as easy. But what would you recommend for them?
Well, firstly, that happens on all kinds of plans. So it's not unique to your plan. I will say we have a lot of plans that use, a third-party administrator, for instance, that's not familiar to, receptionist or a scheduler, which is, as being a provider yourself, a lot of times those are the people who are taking your initial insurance information, checking you in, getting you on the schedule. Their knowledge of insurance and how it works is probably a pretty wide range. Some of them have a ton of knowledge and could probably know exactly what you're saying. If you say, well, we're a self-funded plan and we direct contracts, some of them are knowing exactly what you're talking about. Others of them you lost in translation as soon as you say that. I mean, their knowledge of insurance is, the Primeras of the world, the United Healthcare, anything outside of that, they just don't know exists. And that's okay. I think I go into those conversations sort of expecting them not to understand the details of it, and they don't really need to per se. What I always try to do is advocate, and I've done it myself. I've had members call and say, this person says they don't take our insurance, and I know they're a tier 2 provider. So I've called and talked to the very same people, or they handed the phone to them and I've talked to them myself. And I always continue to push to have them to call HMA. HMA is the administrator. They can't, they want to, in their head, they want to say, well, who's your insurance carrier? HMA is not a carrier. We have a network and an administrator. It's very different in some people's brain from a fully insured carrier. So that piece, I just have to explain to the receptionist or the scheduler, but I continue to push them to say, please call the phone number on the card. Please have them check to make sure that you're in network. They will confirm benefits, and they'll confirm that, because they don't want to hear it from you and me. Oh, don't worry, my copay is $40. They want to hear it from another body that's some sort of authority at the insurance, what they would consider the insurance company. That's the HMAs of the world in our plan. They need to call them and they need to get that proof of insurance. To your point, Kevin, when somebody's coming in out after hours on a Saturday, those kind of things, that happens occasionally. And depending on your relationship with the provider, we see a wide range of how they treat it. Some providers take the information on the card. One of the things we are required by federal law next year to do, which might help a little bit, the ID cards will be required to list some copays. There's some new transparency laws going into place. I think that's going to help these schedulers feel like, oh, I have, an authorized person telling me what their copay is, telling me what their deductible is. That might help in this process a little bit, but they're all going to want to have some verification. And if they don't have a relationship with you, you haven't been in before, and they're not willing to trust you, they have the right to say, I want you to pay in advance and be reimbursed. A lot of times HMA can call when they do come back online Monday morning or, the next day, and they can call and reach out to that provider, or that provider can verify benefits the next day, and then basically make an adjustment and credit you back what you should have been paid. And that is ideal. It's ideal for them to reimburse you versus you waiting on HMA to get you a check back. So it's much better if they can verify benefits the next day. I gave them my credit card, I paid for my office visit. The next day they verify benefits and they say, yep, your copay was $40. We're crediting you the difference. That's a much faster process, and a lot of providers can do that. And it happens with all insurance plans.
Yeah.
And frustrating.
I think that's a perfect answer. And then and once you get past that initial visit, then when you return again, it's done. They already know.
if you can do it in advance, I mean, that's why a lot of providers, probably you included, they ask for that ID card in advance so they can verify in advance. That's ideal, but you know, urgent care, a lot of times you just can't. And
Right.
I've worked with some urgent cares that are great. They'll say, yeah, that's fine. We'll verify tomorrow. If you say your copay is $40, I'll charge you $40. Others have been instructed, no way, no how. And they want you to pay in advance. And that's their right to do as a provider. But we can assist if you get into that situation with getting you reimbursed as quickly as possible, or talking to them to get them to reimburse you. And we can help with that, or facilitate it, have HMA reach out and do that too.
Thank you. So we're at 101, everybody. Any other questions that you want to submit? We are going to do this. So this is our first meeting. Going forward, this is going to be on the third Wednesday of each month, same time, 12:30 to 1. We'll again have a quick topic. We'll start on time and go on there. And so anytime you have questions, feel free to contact Donna or myself, or you can contact Adapt Benefits directly. All that information is in the plan guide that we gave you for the health plan. You can go on our the hub and look us up under Human Resources and Benefits. You can look it up in your Paycom app and see your documents within there. And we're going to continue to have this dialogue to be able to answer questions and work through this. We know this is a new type of plan, and that there's going to be bumps along the road as we learn and how to utilize this in a way that saves all of us money and time, and how we can care for one another and get the best care that we can for the best dollar value behind that. So if there's no more questions, I want to be cognizant of everybody's time. So anything else you want to add?
Nope,
Donna?
just if you have questions before next month, don't save them. Reach out right away so that we can answer them right away for you.
Yeah.
But otherwise, bring your questions to the next meeting.
Perfect. Thank you again. Thank you, Mandy, for
Thanks,
your time
Mandy.
and
Yeah,
all
thank you
the.
guys. I appreciate it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Have a great day.
You too. All right. Take care, everybody.